Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Milind Date and I'm an expert tutor for SBL. Topic is included in the syllabus. Section H of the syllabus talks about change management primarily, but please remember it has connections with the other parts of the syllabus too. Section A, leadership and culture. Section B, governance. Section C, strategy. And Section E, technology are very closely connected with the concept of change management, because everywhere in these areas, you will see changes happening, either driven by external factors or internally decided by organizations. You must carefully look at the learning objectives mentioned for this topic. It covers scope-wise, strategic change, and process changes, which of course will have a long-term bearing on the future of the organization. You need to understand the implications of the change on the organization and also know what drives these changes, what are the influencing factors that must be taken into account before a change management is implemented in the organization. And then it also refers to some of the theoretical models of change management that have been developed by experts. Obviously, these models need not be mentioned by you in answering your tasks, because you don't get any credit for that. And the examining team has made it very, very clear. But you need to understand these models and then use them to be able to structure your answer in the most professional manner, because you are ultimately taking strategic professional exam like SBL. Before you tackle the change management related task, you also should have prior knowledge of having learned the analysis of strategic position of the organization and various strategic choices that are available to bring about changes contemplated in future. Well, as I said, this is not a teaching video, but you can learn this by referring to, apart from, of course, other resources, the chapter 25 of the ACCS Study Hub, which provides you insights into the concept along with a lot of quizzes and the practice questions. Let's look very quickly at the process of change management. First of all, you need to diagnose why change is required. Based on the exhibit that is given to you, the reason why organization is looking for change may be indirectly hinted to you, and you have to spot it. And from the information available in one or more exhibits, or even during the pre-scene reading, you could find out what the drivers of the change are, both internally as well as externally. Because change is simply what? I mean, it's moving from the current state to the desired future state. And remember, change is never easy. Because first of all, you need to understand the direction of the change, the speed at which the change is necessitated to be brought about. And thus, you need to understand what are the different types of changes. Some changes may require you to change your organization business model upside down, whereas some require only a very, very small realignment and adaptation so far as your processes are concerned. It may not require a complete cultural shift. So after having understood the background, you need then to deliberate on how you should, as an organization, have the change management strategy in place. And once you get a buy-in from all the concerned stakeholders, you need to implement the change and then keep reviewing as to whether that change is working or not. So try and understand the steps in the change management process very well. When I talk about types of changes, it's based on the scope, the way in which the organizational process or processes, business model, culture, systems, etc., would be affected by the change. So, what is the scope? The scope will determine whether you require a complete transformation or a small realignment of your activities and culture. It's also the type is also based on the speed or nature of the change. So changes could be either small, incremental, or it could be like a big bang change introduced once for all. And based on that, please learn very well the concepts of realignment, the concept of transformation, the concept of other types of changes, revolution, evolution, etc. I mean, realignment, as I said, you should know that it won't require a change in business culture, but a transformation will necessarily change the paradigms. Changes that are characterized by realignment and incremental aspects is like making your organization adapt to the requirements. These changes could be slow, gradual, within existing paradigms, and you can carry it out step by step. Changes that are characterized by realignment, or using a big bang approach, you can call it as maybe reconstruction. Mostly these are externally forced, but still within existing paradigms. A change in that law, a change in maybe regulatory environment, change in market condition, change in consumer demands. But the changes are rapid and extensive. Take, for example, in most part of the Western world today, downsizing is going on, companies like Google, etc. So you will call that as a reconstruction process. Change that is characterized by transformation and incremental change is always called evolution, or long-term, slow, evolution. Whereas if the change is rapid and very wide, big bang approach, it's called a revolution. So from the data given to you in the exhibits, you need to understand what type of change is it. Please remember, the naming, the nomenclature does not matter much than what you understand out of it. Because this is the first step in you understanding and then therefore carrying out the analysis before you provide your own recommendations. Let's look at when and how the restructuring approach is required by the organization. In this case, the change will be driven by unforeseen changes in the environment. As I said, externally forced. For example, technological changes, demand shifts due to consumer preferences, a strategic drift, which is likely to occur if you don't change as per the environmental changes. So if a scenario is given to you, you try and assess what are the driving forces for the change. So restructuring examples are these, but whereas another thing could be requiring the organization to re-engineer its processes. Re-engineering. Existing processes are no longer valuable. They're no longer effective. They may become inefficient. They may become even superfluous. So as if you have to, erase everything and rewrite all your process through radical rethinking. So, for example, business process re-engineering as a technique you could make use of. And these kind of re-engineering changes would always trigger new ideas through innovative approaches. So whenever restructuring or re-engineering, are vivid in the scenario that is given to you, see what needs to be changed. Now, for example, if it's a process change, you may make use of the logic mentioned in Harmon's matrix, which is driven by two parameters of strategic importance of the process to the organization and the nature of complexity of the process. So changes in the process, in this case, you could, bring about by, automations. And automations would bring in speed, they can bring in accuracy, they can increase efficiency and productivity in the organization. And you also could bring sometimes the change by carrying out the processes by outsourcing them. That would boost efficiency or competency because it's the expertise of somebody else that can make the processes efficient for you. Or you can, even if you continue to perform those processes in-house, you can bring about changes therein by training your own people. Once you know what kind of scope of the change is, once you know what kind of or what type of change it is, you could then decide to make use of models, strategic models developed by expert. I reiterate again, please do not mention the model that you are using. Do not explain the model itself in your answers. Instead, you have to make use of the model to perform your task requirement. Make your answer look like a real professional one. Now, based on my experience, I would suggest you that if there is a process change, use either Harmon's matrix or maybe POPIT kind of approach. POPIT, of course, refers to people, organization, processes, and information technology. Whenever you have to bring about change, it's not only one aspect of the process that needs to be changed always. Instead, you take a holistic approach, and POPIT will definitely help you to understand and take that holistic approach. You need to look at the entire life cycle of the project in using this approach. Now, for example, people, you think in terms of do they understand the change? Do they have the capability and willingness? Should we train them? Do they have the support of organizational culture? Do we have enough systems that help coordinate with each other? Do we have well-defined responsibilities and schedule of functionalities and authorities, etc.? Are the existing processes very well defined, very well documented, together with their independencies? Do they require minimizing of workflows? All these aspects, of course, naturally will have to be supported, because if you talk about automating a process, you would require the information technology support for the purpose, of course, of capturing data, then mining it and use it for reporting about the effectiveness of the change. That's it. Business process re-engineering will be done in the terms of speed, quality, cost, and service achievements through automations and streamlining uh, of the processes. The entire BPR, in fact, as I said earlier, it's turning your existing process completely upside down. And this model is, of course, always outcome-driven model. The free force model also helps you to understand the forces that drive change, that support change, and the forces that resist change. Naturally, you need to demonstrate the way in which the organization can strengthen the driving forces and organizations can overcome the challenges of resisting forces. So learn these models, keep them at the back of your mind. And when you're reading the pre-scene or reading the exhibits that are given to you, identify the details that take you closer to use of specific model. Of course, you can make use of make use of more than one model in answering, no doubt about it. But please make sure that whatever your thoughts are, they are logical with respect to the data and information that is given and the type of change that is contemplated by the organization. So before you choose one or more models of change management in your answers, try and understand your existing culture of the organization. Try and understand the context of the organization. And information related to these can be found from one or many exhibits that are given. And some hints are also provided to you in the pre-scene. Please remember, you don't have to copy paste any information from exhibits or from the pre-scene, but you have to analyze them in a way to be able to connect it with the task that you're asked to perform. Naturally, to understand culture, you can make use of cultural web model and decide which of the aspects of cultural web are hindering the change process. So you need to decide on what you need to actually change. Same thing is with context. The contextual features model can be used to understand existing contexts and their impact, obviously, on things that you want to change. So, for example, what type of time, what amount of time do you have at your disposal to bring about change? Is it abrupt? Is it evolutionary? Is it transformational? What is the scope? What needs to change? Do you have to change everything or something you can preserve as is? Do you have a team of management which has capability, which has prior experience of having gone through the change process? And of course, do you have the resources that are required for the change? And your people, your team, are they ready to take on the change? And has the top leadership empowered the change agents to carry out the process seamlessly? Because without this empowerment, it's very difficult to bring about any change in the organization. So after having understood what type of change it is, what is the current status in terms of culture, in terms of contextual features, understanding the type of change, and then you make use of the model to structure your answer in the most relevant manner. And that's the exam approach that I very, very strongly recommend to you. How this topic is actually tested, in the SBL examination, you could be given a scenario wherein you're asked about what role does the CEO plays in bringing about transformation? What are the activities that need to change? Changes required in the team structure for the new approach to be successful, and analysis of existing culture, and how should it change to align with the new strategic aims of the organization. Remember, students, you should be able to assess the existing situation and identify exactly what you need to recommend to the organization through change management. Because if you just write theoretical answers, they're not going to give you any credit in the examination. Based on your analysis about existing situation and the fact that you have already identified the needs for change, you make use of the model and then finally give you an advice on the way in which requisite change can be brought about by the organization. For these tasks, there are various answer formats and professional skills that are possibly tested. You may be asked to write an email to the CEO. Your communication skills may be tested, or a report with your analytical skills tested, especially where you have to emphasize the analysis of existing situation, existing culture, contextual features. You may be tested on your analytical skills. Or at times, if the business model has to change, and that is what is contemplated in the task, you may have to write a report, but in this, your commercial acumen may be tested. Luckily now for you, obviously, the importance of pre-seen information need not be overemphasized, because it provides you with the context of the organization, and that removes your limitation of not possessing any prior working experience. You get a sort of commercial acumen, commercial awareness from the pre-seen information. So try and make maximum use of that to develop your knowledge about the organization. What are the resources that you need to use? Obviously, I need not overemphasize using ACCA Study Hub. You will find good learning material together with illustrated examples, and some of the examples are taken from live cases, along with your quizzes and practice questions. ACCA practice platform will provide you an opportunity to look at how past exams have tested this topic. Try and develop answers on your own before you compare the suggested solutions. Last but not the least, you should always refer to examiners' reports, because they would cover students' strengths and students' weaknesses. As for the change management topic is concerned, here are some examples that I would like to dwell upon. There was a question in one of the past exams on analysis of existing culture of the organization. And what the examiner says here is students who didn't do well in cultural analysis, they frequently reproduced points from the exhibit. So copy pasted without even explaining how and why the points were examples of that company's culture. Naturally, they struggle to provide a coherent organizational analysis. This does affect your marks. You don't get a pass easily unless You learn from the mistakes made by students earlier and then try and improve through your learnings. Then another comment which said a structured approach was the best way to generate ideas. No marks were awarded for stating the stages of Levin's model. Like unfreeze, change, and freeze. Just students went on explaining what is unfreezing, what is changing, what is freezing. But that's a theoretical answer. Candidates had to apply the knowledge of activities involved in each stage. What needs to be unfreezed? Unfreezing is, doing away with existing beliefs which are no longer valid, and then introduce changes therein. So these are the types of comments that you need to always look at. Never miss on reading examiner's report for any topic. Right? So in summary, what have we learned? We have learned the reason why changes are required. You need to, of course, develop your learning alongside these logical sequence. Why is change required? Is it forced, or is it through the initiative of leaders? What needs to be changed? Is it the individuals, the teams, the processes, the existing competencies, capabilities, processes? What needs to change? And then how these changes are to be brought about. Small, incremental, adaptive, realignment, revolution, evolution. What is it exactly? Because that's what would help the change agent to measure the quantum of change. And then, of course, the change situation analysis will help you to make your own recommendations. So this is how a change management as a concept needs to be learned. Always make use of all the resources that are available from ACCA. Use past exams, use examiner's approach article to set examiner's expectations right in your mind. Use examiner's reviews. And last but not the least, practice a lot of sums on this topic. So I wish you all the very best for your learning. Thank you very much for attending this video. Thank you.